Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with a little bit more Entitled Parents. Yes, back with a little bit more Entitled Parents. Please do me a massive favor. Do stick around to the end of the video. We'll do a little outro kind of catch up thing and I'll chat with you guys about what's been going on and that kind of thing. Otherwise, please do not forget to smash the like button for me. I appreciate every single one of you. Then sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some Entitled Parents. So I'm a psychology student and I'm currently trying to get my master's degree. And in my country, in order to validate your degree, you have to do a 6-month-long internship in a practice, where you get to treat your first patients under supervision. This means after each session, you do a debriefing with your supervisor where you discuss the case and how to proceed next. I'm doing my internship in a children's clinic as my specialization is in children and teenager psychology. It's also important to note that in my country, a lot of children are diagnosed with ADHD or hyperpotential, basically a really high IQ. And this represents a fair share of the children that we see at my clinic. And therefore, since a few years, it's become a vicious circle. Every time a kid acts out just a little bit in class, the parents immediately think that they must diagnose their kid with either ADHD or hyperpotential. Although in my opinion, most of the time, they're just children being children. You can't expect to be calm and quiet all the time. Sometimes all they need is a bit of discipline when they really do something wrong. I don't know if this is really much of a problem in other countries, so I thought it was better just to make it clear. Okay, so now time for the story. I think I don't have to give you the cast, but just in case, me is, well, me, GS is Great Supervisor, EM and EK. And also, English is not my first language, so please, be kind. So it was just a regular day at the clinic. I'd already had 2 or 3 appointments, and they all went pretty great, at least according to the GS. My next patient was Entitled Kid, and they were the last one I was going to see before my lunch break. They were scheduled for 11 AM, and from what I could gather by what they told the receptionist on the phone, the entitled mum wanted Entitled Kid to take an IQ test because they've been acting out in school, apparently because they're too smart and get bored because it's too easy for them. The school wants me to prove it to them so that the Entitled Kid can go directly to the next grade. She wasn't the first parent to ask for that, and I always try to keep an open, non-judgmental state of mind, so I was like, yeah, maybe that's exactly what's happening. Maybe Entitled Kid is really bored in class because they're too smart. It does happen, you know. But boy, was I wrong. First of all, the WISCV, which is the test we use to test the IQ with children, takes quite a long time to run through entirely. And it's really not recommended to stop at the middle of the test and do the rest later, because you will not be in the same state the first time and the next. And that can really affect your results in the end. So when a parent wants us to test their child's IQ, we warn them to be on time and that the process can take quite some time too. So we're just telling them that they should be prepared for it. Since I'm still being supervised, we also have to film the room where the test happens, just to see if I do it right, as some of the test items must be put in a certain way and not another. And I have to say instructions in some exact words, so it's just to check that how the test was done was not unbiased, and this will be important later. We also warn the parents about this on the phone and ask them to come in a little bit earlier than the time scheduled so that they can sign the consent forms for the film. So, as you can understand, being on time or even early is something that we really put a focus on the first time that we speak with the parents. The entitled parent and the entitled kid showed up 30 minutes late. My open, non-judgmental state of mind kind of started to be tested. The entitled parent went through the consent form with the receptionist, and after that, she just said she'd wait in the reception until the entitled kid was done with the IQ test. I told her that she might want to wait at the cafe right next to our clinic, that she will be way more comfortable waiting there as it will take some time for the entitled kid to take the whole test. She responded with something like, "What? Are you sponsored by this cafe? I don't want to pay anything just to wait. The IQ test costs a lot already." I looked at her and just shrugged and took the entitled kid to the testing room. I tried really hard to forget about this interaction with the entitled mum. She was the one that annoyed me, not entitled kid. So let's not direct my anger towards them, I thought. But they quickly proved that the apple had not fallen far from the tree. Before we arrived in the room, while we were walking in the hallways, they kept telling me how they were going to ace this test, how they're so intelligent, and how they can't wait to skip a grade. Sure, bud. Whatever. During the test, they started all their answers by, well, obviously, the right answer is, or some kind of similar phrases. They really wanted to show me that they were smart. Once the test is done, I walk them back to their mum, who was shouting at the receptionist, asking what took so long. She saw us and said, "Finally. I've been waiting for like an hour." To which I responded, "Well, I did tell you it would take some time." She stared at me for a few seconds, sighed, and rolled her eyes like I just did the most annoying thing in the world, and asked me when they could get the results. I told her that I had to get them checked by my supervisor before telling her anything. She then said, "Oh, so we have to wait again?" And I said yes. I told her that we would call her in the afternoon for the results. She raised her arms, grabbed entitled kid, and left. During lunch, I go through the results with my supervisor and we discovered that entitled kid has an IQ of 104, which is clearly average and far from the IQ you need to be diagnosed as high potential. My supervisor watches the video of the testing and says that I've done everything right and that I can call the entitled mum to tell her, which is exactly what I do, and she is furious. She says she doesn't believe me and just hangs up. 20 minutes later or so, she barges into the clinic and demands to see me. I was just finishing with another patient, so I tell the receptionist to tell her to come into my office, which she does. She yells at me for about 10 minutes, saying things like, "How dare you say my child is not smart?" I try to tell her that's not what I said, and she cuts me off and says, "How do you explain how they get bored in school?" I start to say, well, maybe it's because, and again she cuts me off and says, "You're just a student. You're not an actual psychologist. I want a real psychologist to test my child." Again, I start to say actually, she cuts me off and says, "My child is the smartest in the world. How dare you?" At this point, everyone in the clinic can hear her rant, even my supervisor. So my supervisor comes in my office and asks me if everything is okay. The entitled mum then says, "No, not everything is okay. This dumb student here says my child isn't smart. You need to test them again." My supervisor looks at me, tells me to leave and that he'll handle it. From what I heard, my supervisor stayed very calm while explaining to entitled mum that no, an IQ of 104 is not high potential and maybe she should see the problem from another angle. He said that he'd watched the videos of the testing and that I didn't do anything wrong. He stayed so calm during his explanation and I was really impressed. I don't think I could have kept my cool like that. You know, they warn you about entitled parents in psychology classes, but geez, I did not expect that. Damn, I guess that's one way to start off the first episode that we've had in a while, cause wow, this is one dang entitled parent. Oh yeah, and on that note, apparently I have to be super careful about what I say cause YouTube demonetized all my videos now, so can't even say the word damn anymore. I mean, dang. No, but on a completely serious note, the fact that he managed to get an IQ of 104 really isn't that bad considering his mum is probably one of the dumbest people going around. I mean, rather than doing the right thing by her son and, you know, disciplining them a little bit, she decided to look for excuses and pretend that he was the smartest kid in the world. I can't think of a better way to raise your kid than exactly what this mother's doing right now. A couple of months ago, my husband and I moved states and I started a new job at a physical therapy center in our new city. Since starting there, everything has been going well until Thursday. This woman, who has been going to the center for a few weeks after a serious surgery, usually came by herself. Thursday, however, she brought her husband and her 4-year-old son. Apparently the husband normally worked during the week and the boy goes to daycare. But today, the husband had the day off and decided he wanted to see what his wife was doing every week. It's not unusual for family to come in every now and then to watch their loved one's progress. I wasn't an active participant in this, and I was with a patient, but the space was open and I could see and hear everything. The second this family walks in, or in the wife's case, wheels in, the kid starts shouting, "Ball, ball, ball," and all but sprints over to the large exercise balls. He tries to pick one up, but it's too heavy, so he just starts pushing them into each other and making them roll all over the room. Not good, strike one. While the reception lady was checking the woman in, she asked the husband to get their son as he was making a mess. To this, the husband replied, "He's fine. It's not hurting anyone." The wife told him not to argue and get the kid. He huffed, but dragged the little boy away from the balls. At this, he started having a tantrum. Strike number 2. The wife signed in, but greeted her trainer and was ready to get to her routine. The husband was asked to stay in the waiting area with the kid, but could still see everything just fine. However, he didn't like being told what to do, insisting that I should be able to be with my wife. We did come here to support her after all. This did not sit well with the reception lady, and she insisted that it was for safety, but the husband didn't care. During all this, the man is holding onto the boy, who is still crying and trying to break free of his father. He just says, "Oh come on, he's bored. Just let the kid play. He won't bother anyone." Nope, not gonna happen. The reception makes it very clear that if the man lets his child into the work area, he'll be asked to wait outside. The wife could hear her and shouted at her husband to stop being lazy. That at least was pretty funny. The man, who was now embarrassed, just sits down and keeps the kid in his lap. Or at least he tries to. The kid breaks free and starts trying to climb on the nearest machine. One of the guys that had just finished up with the patient saw this and rushed over to grab the kid. The husband didn't like this and told him, "Don't touch my son. He's just playing." And with that, we have 3 strikes. The reception lady stands up from her desk and gets right in this man's face. She informed him that he will now have to take his son and wait outside the center for the rest of his wife's appointment. Also, that he was no longer allowed to come to the center unless they had a sitter. The wife was done with her husband and just told him to go home and she'd call him when she was finished. The husband tried to protest, but his wife shut him down with, "I told you this was a bad idea. Now stop being stupid and do what you're told." With that, the man grabbed the kid and left. Boy, was that satisfying to watch. At the end of her session, the woman apologized for her husband and son. She said that the husband refused to bring anything to entertain their kid because he figured that we'd have a play area, even though the mum told him we didn't. The entire thing lasted maybe 15 minutes, which I think is some kind of record. She also promised that she wouldn't bring her family again. I swear I'm so conditioned to thinking that every single entitled parent is going to end up being an entitled mum that as soon as I heard that the dad was there, I thought, this is going to be okay. He's going to calm the situation down and everything will be fine. But you know, I guess a bit of a plot twist or something a little bit outside the box from the stories that we usually read is pretty good, to be honest. I just don't get though, like if you know your kid's gonna run amok even though your wife told you there is nowhere for this kid to play, why would you take him in the first place? Like, what's the point of that? Wouldn't you rather just like entertain the kid at home and, you know, do the right thing by the business you're going to? I'll just never understand some people. I was in hospital a few years ago and my daughter left out our miniature chinchilla Persian cat. We live in the countryside with only 2 houses nearby, one of them being family and the other being a cottage that's leased for a short period of time. If you know the chinchilla Persian breed, you'll know how fluffy they are. Now, because I was in hospital for a few months, he was a little fluffier than normal. When he didn't come straight back as usual, my daughter went looking for him and couldn't find him. She rang me in tears and I got her dad to go looking. A few hours passed and still no avail. Then, this crazy cat lady, as she was known after the incident, arrived at our door with the cat shaved and neutered. She said that she thought by shaving him, he'd be easier to manage, and by neutering him, he wouldn't ramble. Now, this cat was over 700 euros to buy, and we certainly didn't want him neutered. She said that if it were her cat, that would be what she wanted, so of course it never entered her entitled mind that that's not what somebody else would want. I mean, everyone must think like her, right? Because if she thought it was a good idea, it must have been the right thing to do. The sense of entitlement that this woman showed was insane. Plus the fact that she then asked for the money that she paid for the cost of the procedure. The mind boggles. I wish that I could say that she didn't get away with it and that we went to the police or something, but even though I'm mad with myself now, we did let her get away with it, apart from my partner throwing her off the property with a few choice words and a warning never to come near any of us, including our animals again. We had had enough to deal with at the time with my health, but I still regret doing nothing. Reading all the stories on here brought it all back to me, even though it's been a few years now. I don't know about this story. This is just like weird. I don't even know how you would describe something like this. Like, where do you start? I couldn't imagine if like my dog or cat got out and somebody literally kidnapped or catnapped your animal. I don't know. And the next thing you know, they come home shaved and neutered. Like, wow. Some of these entitled parents or just entitled people really are from another planet. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. So quite a few of you have been asking where I've been and I'll completely level with you guys. I have just been taking a little bit of a break and I'll explain why. The weeks that were kind of preceding me taking a little bit of a break, I decided to try a couple of different things. There are a couple of different video ideas I had and you guys know that I felt that these videos were getting a little bit stale. Not because there was anything wrong with this type of video, but more because of the fact that making it every single day did take a bit of a toll on me and I really wanted to slow down and do something that I enjoyed again. Problem was, I was struggling to find that, and I did find something. I made a really good video for you guys. I thought you guys would have absolutely loved it, and you'll never guess what happened. The moment I put the video up, it got claimed and removed from YouTube, and honestly, it was something that I put so much effort into, and it was just completely shattering. Then the next 3 or 4 videos I ended up uploading got demonetized. I have no idea why, and it just really does take a bit of a hit. So what I thought is I'll just give myself a little bit of time, get myself back in the right mindset, and when I come back making these videos, at least that I'm making them with a little bit more passion than I would have been at the end. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I really just didn't want to put out crappy videos for you guys. I would rather just not make videos than make things that I'm not proud of making. So for those of you that have stuck around, please do me a favor, make sure to leave a comment. I want you to know that I really appreciate every single one of you, and you honestly mean the world to me. I would not trade what I'm doing here for anything in the world, and every single one of you honestly is just so close to my heart. Otherwise, like I said, just drop a comment, say hi. I will try my best to respond to every single comment on this video, get a bit of engagement back. And again, I am sorry for the absence. But I will have to wrap things up there. This was a really long outro. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around. Again, I love every single one of you, and I will do my best to see you guys tomorrow for another episode of Most Likely Entitled Parents. Bye.